G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and this video is a tutorial on color. How color works, how we can mix it with itself and get different colors and what different things in color means and all that stuff. And this video is part of a set of videos on the fundamental principles of drawing. So if you're interested, make sure to click the link on the screen and in the description to go check out the other 5 videos I've done as part of this set. So the first thing we're going to cover with color is the primary colors. The first is red, the second is yellow, and the third is blue. The reason these are called primary colors is because all of the other colors you can get are a mix of these 3 colors. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to take some red and paint it here between the red and yellow, and then take the yellow and lightly paint it on top of the red. And as you can see, the more I paint, the more it turns into orange, and we'll continue to do so until it turns into yellow. Now this is digital painting that I'm doing here. If you're doing it with real paint, always start with the light colors first, because you can't get lighter. You can only get darker. So make sure to keep that in mind. Of course, you can get lighter if paint dries and you paint a layer on top of it, but when you're mixing colors, it's very important to keep that in mind. Add dark colors slowly and incrementally. Continuing the example, if I paint red over here and take blue and gently paint it on top, you can see that it turns into more of a purple color. And then finally, taking the blue over here and gently painting some of the yellow on top, we get green. So as these colors mix into each other, we start to get the various colors of the rainbow. Now, all of these colors are what we call hues of color. So you can change one color to another color, and anywhere along that spectrum is just at what we call a different hue of color. So for example, to illustrate, if I go into my adjustments hue saturation in Photoshop and move this slider around, as I move it, it's moving these colors from one hue to another. But the values of these colors can be achieved with any mix of the red, yellow, and blue that we started off with. So that's the first and most important aspect of color. The next aspect of color is what we call tone, and that is where the color has a mix of black or white. So if I take this red and paint it in this large area here, and then take a white color, I can have a lighter tone and then slowly soften it out until we get to our medium red tone. And then of course I can darken the tone until we get to a black. So that is how tone works essentially in color. I hope that makes sense. And then finally, the last thing I want to cover in terms of the fundamentals of color as a principle in your illustrations and artwork is what we call saturation. Now, saturation as a word sort of means how much of something there is in something. So if something is oversaturated, there's too much of something in something. So for example, this red here is a very saturated red. It's a very bright, loud red. And I love red, but I don't like this color red. Red is actually one of my favorite colors, but not that red. My favorite color is a red with a touch of yellow, just a hint of yellow. So it's almost like an orange. And then with a hint of black, so to make it a bit darker. And then finally, less saturated. So if I go back to my hue saturation slider that I had here, underneath the hue slider that I was using before, I can bring the saturation down or up as I see fit. Now I want to mix it all together, so I'm just going to blur it for the sake of my example now, just so it all mixes. And there you go, that is basically my favorite color. You can see how this slightly more burgundy color is a lot less intense than this fiery, oversaturated red. Now, the reason this information is particularly useful to know the theory behind is that with every digital art program in particular, there are lots of different color sliders and they all work in different ways, and it can be confusing to understand how they work. You can see in Photoshop alone, there are 9 different sliders that I can use to select colors, and they can be confusing, but they all simply work in different ways. So if I select this first one, this bar changes the hue. So like I said, the hue being the one switching from one color to another. Then inside here, we can change our tone from light to dark and also desaturate the color. So if I flick to another one, you can see that all it does is change how these values are selected. So in this one, it's this main central area here. You select the hue along the top in the middle, go down to create the darker tone, and then this slider goes to a desaturated tone with the top being light. So that's how you select your whiter tones. The next slider down does the same, but instead of going from color to black, it goes from color to desaturation. And then the bar on the right is simply tone from light to dark. So I hope that sort of demonstrates how the different color wheels work in various programs. So now when you open different photo or animation programs, you can have a bit more of an understanding as to what it's doing when you're working with the color wheel. Now, speaking of color wheel, kapow! This thingy here is called a color wheel. To find one yourself, simply just go to Google Images and type color wheel and you'll get a whole bunch of examples. We can see the hues moving around this wheel, and it's really cool to use because we can find the primary colors and the secondary colors and then use this wheel to find complementary or contrasting colors. So for example, here we have the primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. To find the secondary colors, we simply go across the wheel. So pointing straight across to the color on the opposite side, we then find the secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. And then of course, there are hues in between them. There are lots of examples in a lot of the Google image color wheels as to how to find really cool color combinations, but essentially you can find formulas for colors that work well with each other. So for example, colors on the opposite ends of the wheel tend to work well together. So blues and oranges work well together, green and red work well together in ways that contrast but are complementative. Then of course, if you draw a line all the way down here, on this side of the wheel are what we call hot or warm colors, and then on this side of the wheel are what we call cool or cold colors. Hot and cold colors are useful to communicate literally and metaphorically temperature. So whether a piece be dramatic or lonely, whether it be hot or cold, using hot and cold colors to complement that can be a really useful thing to do. And also, using hot and cold colors in a single piece to create a really strong element of contrast can be a really cool way to go about it too. So this video has been a bit of a scratch the surface look at how color works in the very fundamental form. A really rough introduction to the theory behind color. I hope it's been useful to those of you unfamiliar with it. And once again, if you're interested in checking out the other videos which are part of the fundamentals of drawing set of videos that I've done, make sure to click the link on the screen and in the description. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and until next time, I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel to see new content every week. Check out more of my stuff by clicking the annotations over there. You can get the reference files for this tutorial by clicking the link in the description, and if you want the reference files for all the tutorials I've ever made, check out the tutorial archive. If you're looking for a great place to collaborate, explore, or share your own content, head over to newgrounds.com. That's it for now, and until next time, see you later.